Okay, so if you've been anywhere near tech news or even just browsing online lately, you've definitely heard the term AI agents. It's buzzing.
Absolutely everywhere.
But the question for you, listening right now, is this just, another buzzword like we always get in tech?
Right. Flash in the pan or something real.
Exactly. Or is it a genuine shift? Something that's actually going to change how you work, how you get things done.
hmm
Beyond the hype, what actually are these agents? How do they really function?
Well, that's exactly what we're aiming for in today's deep dive. We want to sort of cut through that noise.
Good.
We'll get clear on what AI agents are, how they're really different from the AI tools you might already use every day.
Like ChatGPT and things like that.
Exactly. And then we'll dig into their impact, which is pretty profound, especially for freelancers and the future of work.
Okay.
And just so you know, we've pulled together insights from, well, quite a range of sources, explainers on YouTube, really detailed academic papers looking at developer experiences.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, industry reports on the freelance world, and even material from leading AI courses. So a broad view.
Okay, great. So let's dive in. Let's unpack it. You've probably used things like ChatGPT, maybe Google Gemini.
Most people have by now.
Right. They're built on large language models, LLMs. And they're, frankly, amazing at generating text, helping you draft an email, that kind of thing.
Super useful for specific tasks.
But there are two key things to remember about them, right? First, they're kind of passive. They wait for you to tell them what to do.
Always waiting for that prompt.
And second, their knowledge is usually limited. They don't know your personal calendar, your company's private data, unless you feed it to them in a specific way.
That's the core limitation. And that's where we start seeing things like AI workflows emerge.
Ah, okay. So what's that?
It's basically where a human sets up a fixed path, like a series of steps for the LLM to follow. Think of it as predefined control logic.
Like a script?
Sort of. So you could tell an LLM, go search my Google Calendar for my next coffee meeting, and it does that one thing.
Okay, simple enough.
But here's the catch. If your next thought is, okay, what's the weather forecast for that meeting? The system might just fail.
Ah, because I only told it to check the calendar.
Precisely. The human defined that narrow path. The human is still the one making all the real decisions, step by step.
Got it. And this is where that other term comes in, RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation.
Yes, our RAG. Sounds complicated, but it's really just a clever type of AI workflow.
Okay.
It basically lets the AI look things up before it answers. It connects the LLM to external, often real-time data sources.
Like my calendar. Or that weather service we mentioned.
Exactly. So it can give you accurate, up-to-date answers, not just stuff based on its old training data.
Right. And we've seen some complex examples of these workflows, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Things like automatically pulling news links from a Google Sheet.
Okay.
Using Perplexity AI maybe to summarize them, then feeding that to Claude to draft social media posts.
For LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah, and then scheduling them all to go out automatically.
Yeah.
Hundreds of steps, potentially.
But the key point is,
even with all those steps, if a human designed that exact sequence, if the human is the ultimate decision maker for the path, it's still fundamentally an AI workflow, not an agent.
okay, so that begs the million-dollar question. What is an AI agent then, if it's not just a workflow?
Right. So Anthropic, they're a major player in AI safety and research. They actually draw a clear line here. They put AI systems into two buckets: workflows, which we just discussed, and agents.
Okay.
An AI agent is different. It's a system that proactively works towards a goal. It makes its own decisions and takes actions over time to get there.
So it's not just following my script.
Not at all. You give it a complex goal, and it figures out the steps itself. It doesn't need you to tell it how at every single turn. This means it needs to do multi-step reasoning, planning, be proactive, use tools effectively, often in this loop of acting, seeing the result, and adjusting.
Kind of like how we work on a project?
Exactly like that. It's iterative. They operate based on something called an objective function. Think of it as its guiding principle, its goal definition.
Okay.
It constantly tries to make choices that maximize the value of that function, that get it closer to achieving its overall purpose.
So let's translate that. What does this actually mean for you, the user?
It means instead of a tool that just answers questions or follows preset steps, you get something that can genuinely think and adapt on its own. It's like having a smart assistant or even a project manager.
Okay, give me an example. A broad goal.
Sure. Imagine telling an agent, prepare everything for Sarah's upcoming maternity leave.
Whoa, okay, that's not a simple command.
Right. Or maybe onboard the new intern who starts next Monday.
Yeah, those are complex projects.
Exactly. An agent wouldn't just wait for you to list tasks. It would autonomously figure out what needs doing, scheduling handover meetings, documenting processes, setting up accounts.
Mm.
It would create a plan, execute it, and probably learn and adjust as unexpected things pop up.
And the generative AI part, like the text generation, where does that fit in?
That's often a component within the agent. So the agent might use something like Google Gemini to draft an email as part of the onboarding plan, or summarize meeting notes.
Got it. So the LLM is a tool the agent uses, but the agent is the orchestrator.
Precisely. The agent is running the show.
Okay, so if these things are orchestrating complex tasks, where are we actually seeing them used? Let's connect it to the real world.
Great question. They're already starting to transform industries. Take software development, for example.
Yeah.
Agents can help generate significant chunks of code, not just snippets, but larger segments.
Okay.
They can also offer real-time suggestions while a developer is coding, pointing out better ways to do things.
Like an AI pair programmer.
Kind of, yeah. And they can automate testing, too, generating test cases, running them, analyzing the results.
That sounds like it could massively speed things up.
It does. It accelerates development, cuts down on errors, and importantly, frees up human developers to tackle the really hard creative problems. It shifts their role.
That's huge for tech. But what about fields like healthcare, where decisions are critical?
Yeah, the potential there is immense, but obviously needs careful handling. We're seeing agents used for personalized patient monitoring.
How does that work?
Through wearable devices.
Oh.
The agent analyzes the data stream, alerts the patient or doctor to potential risks, maybe schedules follow-ups automatically, or even suggests medication adjustments within pre-approved safety parameters, of course. They can also assist clinicians suggesting possible diagnoses based on patient data, summarizing research, or even handling administrative tasks like scheduling or insurance claims.
So better outcomes and less paperwork.
That's the goal, streamlining operations while potentially improving care.
Incredible. What else? Where else are they making waves?
Well, think about drug discovery. That's usually a super long, expensive process.
Right, years and billions.
Agents can speed that up significantly. They can predict how a potential drug might behave early on, filter out candidates that are likely to fail.
Saving time and money.
Exactly. And optimize clinical trials. Then there's manufacturing optimizing production lines in real time based on supply levels or demand.
Okay.
Doing predictive maintenance on machines by monitoring sensor data, even automating quality control to spot defects.
Yeah.
The efficiency gains are potentially massive.
Yeah, I can see that. And what about, say, finance or government? Those seem like areas ripe for automation.
Definitely. In finance, agents could manage investment portfolios, analyzing market data, assessing risk, making trades, all potentially without constant human micromanagement.
So democratizing wealth management.
That's one potential outcome, yeah. Making sophisticated strategies more accessible. In government, imagine agents handling citizen inquiries 24/7.
Oh, that would be nice.
Right. Processing applications for permits or benefits, guiding people through complex bureaucratic hoops. It could mean faster service, less admin burden.
Are there concrete examples of this stuff out there now?
There are. Mercedes-Benz, for instance, put an AI agent called MBUX, virtual assistant, in their cars. It handles natural conversation for controlling car functions and getting information.
Okay, automotive agents.
Yeah. And Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, used agentic AI, looking at Google search trends and weather data, to actually predict cold and flu outbreaks.
Predicting outbreaks, wow.
And AES, a big energy company, used agentic AI to automate safety audits for their energy infrastructure. They reported a massive 99% reduction in audit costs.
99%.
A 10-20% boost in accuracy. Real bottom line impact.
Okay, with capabilities like that, it's totally understandable why AI is shaking up the freelance world.
It really is. It's a fundamental shift.
We're seeing this huge rise in self-employment anyway, right? And companies are desperately looking for outside help because they often lack AI skills internally.
That's a key point. They need external expertise. There was a recent UK report on the freelance sector.
Yeah.
It showed a really strong link between freelancers using AI tools and actually increasing their earnings.
So using AI pays off for freelancers.
The data suggests so. It showed that 1 in 5 UK business leaders are specifically hiring freelancers who can demonstrate they have AI skills.
Oh, 1 in 5 looking for that skill explicitly.
Yeah. And the freelancers using these tools, they report saving huge amounts of time. Some said up to 2 full work days a week.
2 days a week. That's massive.
Think about what that does. It's not just about saving time on boring tasks. It fundamentally changes what a freelancer can do with their week. They can take on more clients, focus on higher value strategy.
Right, it's not just efficiency, it's capacity.
Exactly. And that efficiency translates directly into higher earnings. A significant chunk, 44% of freelancers in that study, said they're now charging more for services that use AI.
Okay, so it's not just doing the same work faster, it's enabling higher value, higher priced work.
Precisely. But it goes beyond just making existing services better.
How so?
It's opening up entirely new ways for freelancers to make money. Diversification.
Okay, like what?
Well, take a content writer. They can use AI to write articles faster, sure. But now they can also offer services like prompt engineering, teaching businesses how to talk to AI effectively.
Ah, a new skill in itself.
Right. Or creating custom chatbot personalities, or developing AI-powered content strategies. Graphic designers might start generating AI art or custom filters.
No coders.
Coders could integrate AI APIs for clients, build small AI tools. This ability to pivot, to add these new in-demand AI-related services, that's a huge factor in boosting earnings and making freelancers more resilient.
So adaptability is key, which means learning new skills is crucial.
Absolutely essential. Continuous reskilling and upskilling. We're talking about skills like prompt engineering, really mastering how to get the best results from AI.
Right.
Proficiency with specific AI tools, obviously. Data analysis, understanding the data AI uses and produces. Maybe even some basic machine learning concepts.
And ethics, presumably.
Definitely. Ethical AI usage is becoming critical. There are tons of courses out there. Coursera, EDX, Udacity covering these areas.
And the pay rates for these new skills?
They can be significant. Prompt engineers might charge, say, $70 to $100 an hour. ML specialists even more, maybe $80 to $150.
Wow.
So freelancers who jump on this, who learn and integrate AI, they're really setting themselves up for the future.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing. This feels like a gold rush, and gold rushes are usually messy, especially for the people doing the digging, the developers.
That's a very apt analogy.
Yeah.
It is messy. There was a recent study, really interesting. They talked to 52 freelance developers working specifically with this generative AI stuff.
And what did they find?
Lots of hurdles. Obstacles they felt were either brand new because of Gen AI or just way worse than before. It's like pioneering in the Wild West.
Building the railroad tracks while the train's already moving.
Exactly. A lot of the problems come from the core nature of the technology itself, like its unpredictability.
Randomness.
Yeah. Even if you set the temperature, that randomness control really low, the AI's output can still vary. Tone, style, structure.
Yeah.
It's not perfectly consistent.
So lots of trial and error.
A ton of time spent crafting and tweaking prompts. One developer literally said, AI is a bit random and prompt engineering quite takes some time. You suddenly figure out that it doesn't produce results you wanted.
Frustrating.
Very. And then you get the hallucinations.
Ah, yes, when the AI just makes stuff up.
Right. Generates plausible sounding but totally wrong information. A veteran freelancer in the study said their process is slow because they don't trust the AI. They said, if you just take the output and trust it, it's going to bite you.
Wow.
You have to verify everything.
So verification becomes a major bottleneck. What other technical issues did they mention?
Well, especially when building those RAG applications we talked about, the ones using external data.
Yeah.
It becomes incredibly hard to figure out why you're getting a bad answer. Is the problem the LLM itself?
Yeah.
Is it the data source? Is it how you're retrieving the data?
The debugging nightmare.
Totally. The developer described it like, now you start asking yourself, is it the system, the workflow, the Pinecone database? What could be the problem? It's complex.
Yeah.
Plus, you often can't fully control the output format, which messes with software design. Reproducibility is harder. Testing is harder. Even breaking things into neat modular functions is tough because LLMs often bundle capabilities together, unlike older AI models trained for one specific thing.
Right.
And here's a kicker. Actually training or fine-tuning these big models, often way too expensive for a freelancer. We're talking potentially over $10,000 for just one training run.
Wow. Okay, so they're mostly stuck using off-the-shelf models.
Largely, yes. And beyond the tech itself, there's the whole hype problem.
Ah, managing client expectations.
Exactly. Clients hear the buzzwords, they see the demos, and they get unrealistic ideas about what AI can actually do now.
Right. Can't AI just solve everything?
Pretty much. Sometimes they demand Gen AI even when it's not the right tool for the job. Or they think the LLM magically knows everything about their specific business without being given the data.
Leading to poorly defined projects.
Yes, with the study called ad hoc interest, it makes it super hard to define success metrics or create a reliable ground truth to even test against.
And I bet there's pressure to deliver fast.
Intense pressure. The tech is changing constantly, clients want results yesterday, but the trial and error nature makes budgeting really uncertain.
How do you quote for a project when you don't know how long the prompt tweaking will take?
Exactly. One freelancer put it perfectly. You have a budget limit. You can't spend all the client's budget by doing a lot of prompts. It's a kind of trade-off, time and the money. And you could spend one of them, but you always have to check on the other.
Man, it really does sound like they're pioneers out there, building the tools, figuring out the processes, dealing with unpredictable tech and hyped up clients.
It's a challenging frontier, for sure, but also exciting for those who can navigate it.
So to help navigate that, developers often lean on frameworks, right? Like LangChain.
Yes, LangChain was huge when it launched back in October 2022. Became one of the fastest growing open source projects ever.
What does it actually do?
Think of it as an orchestrator. It provides a standard way to connect different AI building blocks, the LLMs themselves, prompt templates, external data sources like databases or documents.
The indexes you mentioned.
Right. And memory, so the AI can remember past parts of the conversation. It helps you chain these components together to build applications.
Okay. And LangGraph, that's related.
LangGraph is an extension of LangChain. It's specifically designed for building more complex agentic systems. It lets you visualize the agent's flow as a graph.
Like a flowchart for the agent's thinking?
Kinda, yeah. But crucially, it supports cycles. The agent can loop back, reevaluate, try different paths, not just a straight line like simpler workflows.
Enabling that iterative process we talked about.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's why it's popular. Thousands of stars on GitHub. It allows for these stateful, multi-step interactions where the agent can adapt, remember things across conversations, and even include human-in-the-loop steps. Like the agent proposes an action, say, buying a stock, but has to pause and ask for your approval before executing it.
That seems vital for control, especially with risky actions.
Absolutely. Control and error recovery. There's a good example of a travel agent built with LangGraph. It takes your request, calls APIs for flights and hotels,
Okay.
uses a powerful LLM like GPT-4o to understand everything, and then emails you a full itinerary. That requires complex stateful logic.
That sounds powerful. But I sense a but coming. It's not all roses in the developer community, is it?
Yeah, no, not entirely. While these frameworks are powerful tools, especially for getting started, some experienced developers, particularly freelancers building production systems, express frustrations.
Like what?
You hear about headaches, lots of dependency conflicts where different software pieces don't play nicely together, concerns about the quality of the documentation.
Okay, typical open source teething problems.
Maybe partly. But there's also a deeper sentiment sometimes that these frameworks, while helpful initially, can become restrictive, that they're maybe not production ready in some cases. Some feel they add too many layers of abstraction wrappers, they call them, that actually get in the way when you need fine-grained control or deep debugging.
Obscuring the very thing you need to fix when the AI hallucinates.
Precisely. We've seen developers say things like, the frameworks only hinder you in real-world complex scenarios, or even, quite bluntly, hated every single one of them when trying to build robust production-grade systems.
Wow. Strong words.
It highlights a key point for you, the listener. These libraries, LangChain, LangGraph, others, they're tools, useful tools, often. But the underlying skills are often more important than just knowing one specific framework. Understanding agent design principles, mastering prompt engineering, knowing the wider ecosystem.
Like RAG, databases, deployment, security.
Exactly. Re-ranking results, AI ops, DevOps practices for AI, security, data privacy regulations. That knowledge is transferable and arguably more valuable long-term.
Because the frameworks themselves might change rapidly.
Absolutely. Some developers are even building their own mini frameworks, like one called Atomic Agents, because they feel existing options like Crew AI or AutoGen don't give them enough control.
So the takeaway is, learn the concepts, not just the tool commands.
That's a great way to put it. Knowing how to architect the solution, how to get the AI to do what you need reliably and safely, that's the core skill in this fast-moving field.
Okay, and that word safely brings us squarely to ethics and governance. As these agents get more autonomous, more powerful, the risks must increase too, right?
Exponentially. It's not just theory anymore. We're talking about real-world consequences amplified by the agent's ability to act independently, often with less direct human oversight per action.
So if an agent managing finances makes a bad autonomous trade that loses people money, who's liable?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question. It gets incredibly complex legally and ethically.
And it's not just financial risk. What are the big categories of risk we need to think about with agentic AI?
Well, pretty much all the risks we already worry about with AI, bias, errors, lack of transparency, they just get magnified.
Okay.
So increased liability issues, definitely. Higher risk of misuse for cybercrime, deep ethical dilemmas, basic AI safety and alignment, making sure the agent actually does what we intend and doesn't cause harm.
Right.
Then there's algorithmic bias potentially getting compounded,
Yeah.
software errors cascading, the black box problem of not knowing why an agent made a decision.
Security vulnerabilities.
Big time. Potential for manipulating users, spreading misinformation automatically and at scale. Some people talk about the dead internet theory where AI agents could flood the web with content.
Fakes.
Yeah. They complicate legal frameworks, risk assessment.
Yeah.
They can hallucinate, get stuck in loops, be hard to stop if they go rogue. And we still lack standardized ways to even evaluate how safe they are.
It sounds like a minefield. How do we even begin to build safeguards?
It requires a multi-layered approach. Technology is one part.
Like what?
Running agent code in secure sandboxes so it can't mess with the wider system. Strong security checks and balances built in. Doing offensive security, basically. Trying to break your own agent to find weaknesses before bad actors do.
Red teaming it.
Exactly. Red teaming, malware analysis,
Yeah.
and clear company policies on data handling are crucial. We're also seeing automated AI governance tools emerge.
What do those do?
They help monitor the AI throughout its lifecycle development, deployment, operation to check if it's staying aligned with its goals and complying with regulations.
But tech alone isn't enough.
Absolutely not. Human accountability is critical. Organizations need to step up, define clear ethical guidelines, appoint leaders who are responsible for signing off on agent use.
So someone is actually accountable.
Yes. And fostering AI literacy across the whole organization. Everyone needs a basic understanding of how these agents work, where they're being used, and what their limitations are.
Transparency within the organization. What about specific best practices when actually deploying an agent?
Several key ones. Always have human evaluations, especially early on. Constrain the agent's action space. Limit what it's allowed to do.
Don't give the nuclear codes on day one.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Require human approval for critical actions, like that stock purchase example. Make its default behavior the safest, least disruptive option.
Okay.
Ensure its actions are legible or explainable as much as possible. Have automated monitoring, ideally by other AI systems watching for anomalies. Reliable attribution, know which agent did what.
And a kill switch.
Definitely.
Robust interruptibility. Way to gracefully shut it down if needed. And given all this complexity and the fact that regulations are still catching up,
Start small.
start small. Pilot programs on low-risk tasks first. Learn, adapt, then scale carefully. The MIT AI Risk Repository lists over 700 AI risks, and even they say agentic AI is still underexplored for new kinds of dangers.
Like recursive self-improvement.
Yeah, that's a theoretical idea of AI improving itself without us. It just highlights how much we still need to learn and how carefully we need to proceed. Ethical practices have to constantly evolve. Wow. Okay, so we've covered a huge amount of ground. We went from the basic LLM, just responding to prompts,
The passive tool.
through workflows where humans define the steps, all the way to these proactive, self-directing AI agents.
Yeah, the orchestrators.
We've seen how they could revolutionize industries, from software to healthcare to finance.
Game-changing potential.
We looked at the massive impact on freelancers, the opportunities and the need for new skills,
The efficiency gains and the new income streams.
but also the real challenges developers face, the tech hurdles, the hype, the pressure, that whole Wild West scenario.
Definitely a tough but exciting landscape for them.
We touched on the tools like LangChain and LangGraph, but stressed the importance of underlying skills over specific frameworks.
Concepts over commands.
And finally, we really grappled with the huge ethical questions and the critical need for safeguards and responsible deployment as these agents become more autonomous.
It's a journey that's really, truly just beginning. But what seems clear, I think, is that these agentic systems, despite all the hype, the jargon, the challenges, they do represent a major leap.
Towards what?
Towards AI, with more genuine intelligence and capability. They hold this promise of unlocking incredible productivity, new forms of innovation. It'll change how we work, how we interact with tech, in ways we're probably only just starting to imagine.
So here's something for you, our listener, to think about as we wrap up. If these AI agents are set to become our digital pioneers, exploring complex problems and making decisions out there on the digital frontier, what new territories will you choose to explore armed with this understanding? And maybe
Yeah.
more importantly, what ethical compass, what principles will guide your journey as you navigate this truly brave new digital world shaped by increasingly autonomous AI?